Star Wars 7x7 episode 3102. We're continuing our series of 2023 previews and looks back at 2022 in terms of Star Wars storytelling, and we're going to combine a few categories together today. We are looking at comics, virtual reality, and video games. Punch it! Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod and this is Star Wars 7x7, your daily dose of Star Wars joy, and thank you so much for joining me for it. So let's get the easy stuff out of the way. Virtual reality we know very little about for 2023. We know that the Tales from the Galaxy's Edge situation is coming to PlayStation VR as an expanded, enhanced experience thing that's happening in February. You gotta imagine that they're working on something new at this time. I mean, stuff has done really well for them, but yeah, there's been no inkling about that whatsoever. I haven't seen anything in rumors or leaks or spoilers, nothing. So yeah, we kept thinking that last year there was going to be something new announced that would be in development and that we would get just a hint of something, and it never did happen. It was all about Tales from the Galaxy's Edge, which, yeah, again, we are getting a version for PlayStation in February, and that is as much as we know at the moment. On the video game front, I would say that probably one of the most anticipated video game releases of 2023 in general, like regardless of whether it's Star Wars or not, is Star Wars Jedi: Survivor, which is the sequel to Jedi Fallen Order. That is coming out on March 17th. And 2022 was also marked by anticipation for and confusion about Star Wars Hunters, the arena game, which has apparently been soft launched in a few countries around the world, but still hasn't been officially launched in the United States. We thought it was coming in 2022. Now it seems to be coming in 2023 as far as we can tell. So there is a novel called A Battle for the Arena that's supposed to be released in concert with the release of Hunters, you would imagine, and it has been repeatedly rescheduled, probably because the game itself has been rescheduled in terms of its release. Right now it's sitting on the calendar for March 7th, but that's also actually the same date as a novel called Battle Scars, which is a Jedi Survivor tie-in novel. You would imagine that one of those is going to move, because I can't imagine two video game book releases on the same day about two different video game franchises, and yeah, I expect that's going to change, but so far it hasn't yet. We don't have a release date on Hunters, but yeah, I don't think it's going to be in March because Jedi Survivor is happening in March. So we're just going to have to see how that plays out. As far as comics go, so there was a one-shot revelation event that happened late in 2022 that said it was going to change the Star Wars comics world forever, and we haven't talked about it here on the podcast, so I can't tell you much about that necessarily, but what I can tell you is that unlike with, say, Empire Ascendant, which was a one-shot that kind of marked a transition from a volume 1 of the flagship Star Wars title to a volume 2, instead of taking place in between Star Wars and Empire, taking place between Empire and Jedi. Well, that Revelation thing did not reset us for a volume 3 of that. So, or any of the other comics for that matter. We are still continuing on with all of the main titles, so Star Wars and Darth Vader Volume 3 and Dr. Aphra Volume 2 and the Bounty Hunter series. So far, solicitations for them have been made available into the month of April. I think the last one is dated April 12th for a Dr. Aphra comic, and beyond that we don't know what may be coming down the pike. We do know that a number of limited series that are currently in production are slated to end in 2023. So the adaptation of season 1 of The Mandalorian will be ending, the Han Solo and Chewbacca limited series will be ending, Hidden Empire, the final trilogy, the final, what am I trying to say? Limited series trilogy that's being written by Charles Soule that has to do with Kira and Crimson Dawn, right? That will be wrapping up. And then the Yoda limited series will also be wrapping up in 2023. There is a Son of Staros limited series that will be launching in 2023 and will also be wrapped up during the year as well. And then there's going to be a series of one-shot celebrations of Return of the Jedi, which is, of course, celebrating its 40th anniversary in 2023. They've announced the first of those, which is taking place at Jabba's Palace. So it's Return of the Jedi, Jabba's Palace, and there will be more comics, though they haven't told us how many, featuring fan-favorite characters, is how they've put it. And those are all from Marvel Comics. Meanwhile, there's Hyperspace Stories, which is the Dark Horse Comics. That's the equivalent to Star Wars Adventures that was coming out from IDW previously. So Hyperspace Stories will be continuing its regular run as far as we know. And then that's, of course, in addition to all the High Republic comics that will be coming out that we discussed yesterday. But we don't see much farther past the month of April, and so it does make you wonder what else is coming out. I can tell you that we will probably find out a lot more about what will be coming in the world of comics at Star Wars Celebration when that happens in April of 2023. If there's one thing I feel comfortable predicting for a comic to come out, I would imagine an adaptation of Season 2 of The Mandalorian would begin sometime in late 2023. And based on some comments at Celebration in May of 2022, I think there's a chance that we might see a General Veers comic, a limited series of some kind, because of all the activities of the Veer Watch folks on social media, and Charles Soule has taken note of it. It sounds like others in Lucasfilm Publishing have taken note of it, and so they may do something with that. So I would not be surprised to hear an announcement about a General Veers type of thing, and comics seems like the place to do it. And I guess the only other thing I'd flag, just circling back to the video game front, is that there are multiple Star Wars games that are currently in development, but it still seems like it's pretty early to learn about what might be going on with any of those, like open world game type things and a first person shooter thing. So yeah, I think maybe there's a chance we'll hear a little bit more about some of those projects that are in development, but it seems like it's still early in the game from when the announcements were made in January of 2022. You know, all of these sounded like they were a few years away, and they were just kind of giving us a little bit of a teaser preview, an early preview, the sort of like, hey, you know, a deal's been made and we've started to work on it, but who knows how long it's going to take before we see any of that stuff. Probably not in 2023, but maybe a little bit more of an idea of what those games might entail, when they might be set in the Star Wars timeline, that sort of thing. And that's what I've got for you today on our 2023 preview as it relates to comics and virtual reality and video games. And that is going to do it for this episode of the podcast. It just remains for me to say thank you so much for joining me for it. As always, this is the last episode of the year, and I just want to say I am so grateful to you for spending the year with me, or joining me in the course of the year, as the case may be, and I'm very much looking forward to a brand new year of celebrating Star Wars storytelling with you and diving in to all of these wonderful new stories we'll be getting. But that's going to do it for today. Thank you again for being here with me, and may the Force be with you wherever in the world you may be.
Is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited, or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2021 by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.